Dr. Cook here, and in this Army Basics video, we're going to be talking about unit symbols. Now, there's a lot of different unit symbols out there. There's a whole book of these things, more than we would ever expect you to memorize. And here's some examples of what they look like, but it is important that we understand how to read these, especially the common ones, and how they're built. There is a grammar to how these go together, so let's talk about that. All right, first thing all of our unit symbols are going to need is a frame, all right, the outline, the shape of the main part of the symbol. And that tells us something about the unit. That tells us their alignment. We also use color to do that, but if we ever had to do things in black and white, the shape is there to tell us. So friendly units are always going to be rectangles done in blue. Enemy, red diamonds. Neutral, so other military forces that maybe aren't on either side, are going to be in green squares. And anything that's an unknown is going to be in this kind of cloud shape and done in yellow. Luckily, that doesn't come up too much because it is kind of hard to read sometimes. All right, inside of our frame, we need to put a main icon. Now, our main icons show functionality. They're not branches, so don't get confused or think they always have to align with the branch. Some of them do rather well, but we can get into some special units or different branches where you'll have different icons in there that can happen too, because it's about functionality of what they're doing. Now, here's kind of the first four that you really should know just off the top of your head, and I got a couple clues here to help you understand how to put them together. So our first one is infantry, and this is one of the symbols that's been around a really long time. One of the first ones goes back to the Prussians, and it's this crossed X. Well, if we look at an infantryman in kind of the colonial era, and you can see this in your cadet uniforms, we've got the two crossed belts, one that's supporting the cartridge box and one that's supporting their bayonet. So those two crossed belts represent the infantry, so our infantry gets an X in it. Next up, we can talk about armor. All right, that's a more modern thing, but if we look at a tank, all the tanks have treads on them, so you get this oval shape, and that's what goes inside for armored units. Next up, we have cavalry. All right, so kind of like the infantry, this is one of our really old ones, one of the original branches, and it's this single slash. Well, if we look back at our cavalrymen, since they didn't have cartridge boxes because they were using sabers, they only had one crossed belt that went across, and we still can see that if you look at our cadet uniforms for those who are carrying sabers instead of rifles only have the one crossed belt. So the cavalry is going to be this one stripe that goes across. And the last one I want you to always kind of know is artillery, which is one of the other original three branches and a really old, one of the first symbols that got used. And it's just this circle in there. Well, that represents the cannonball. We can see here a stack of cannonballs. So those are just some ways to help remember those first ones. Really get those four down. All right, next we can start looking at some more that have some other symbols that are similar to the first ones we saw. So anti-tank, which is not a branch, but has this kind of upside down V shape. Engineers with their little sideways E bridge. Aviation looks like their helicopter wings there. And then we also have ones that are just straight letters, and those can get really easy. So military intelligence, the letters MI. Military police, MP. And there's other ones out there that use letters also. They can be kind of easy to figure out. Now, all the examples I showed you so far are in blue with our rectangular frame for friendly. If they're enemy units, we're just going to change it out to be red and use that diamond outline around it. So you can see here all those same ones shown for the enemy. Next thing we need to add is an echelon, which is to understand how big a unit we're talking about. So in this example, here's an infantry unit. How big is it? Well, let's say it's an infantry squad. So we have to put an indicator, and we'll add in our size indicator for an infantry squad. Now think to yourself, what if I had an infantry platoon? What size would I put up there? We can look at our chart. We can remember from the other video. 3 little dots is going to show us the fact that it's a platoon. Or if I had an infantry brigade, okay, what do I put on there? I can check my chart, try and remember back to the other video. So brigade has 1X. We're going to put the X on top of that. So now I'm showing what kind of unit it is, along with how large it is, so I can understand that. Next thing we have to always include is a unit designation when it's known. In other words, the unit name. All right, and here's what it looks like. We're going to put this whole string of things on there. Now, in this case, we got to look at that very first one on the left. All right, this is second what? We can look at the size indicator to realize this is second squad. All right, and then we build out from there. So if it's second squad, it's going to be from third platoon, keep going up, alpha company, and then what's battalion? It's going to be the 1st to the 504th Infantry Battalion. It's a historical designator, that's why there's a dash in there, and we don't really separate that out, but that's how that shows up. All right, here's some bonus information for you. Sometimes that can get really long, laying it all out like that. So you can split it into 2 lines. In that case, the unit itself goes on the top. So second squad, just put two up there, and then the higher goes underneath it. So we can split those and save a little bit of space if we need to, but don't just split them in half arbitrarily. The unit itself goes on the top, and everything higher goes underneath it. All right, so let's do a little review. The 4 things we need to always include. We got to have our frame. We need to put a main icon inside of it to show the functionality. We need an echelon to show the size, and if we know it, we want to put the unit designation so we know the name or what unit we're talking about. And then we will have a complete unit symbol. All right, now let's test yourself a little bit and see what you learned. All right, there are 2 unit symbols here. Can you figure out what they represent? Go ahead, pause the video, take a look at it, and see if you can work it out. All right, now here's the answers. We've got a friendly armor platoon from 2nd Platoon, Alpha Company, 1st to the 35th Armored Regiment. And we've got an enemy infantry squad that is 2nd Squad, 1st Platoon from Alpha Company.
Would you like to know more?
You can go see the reference for all this is FM 1-02.2 Military Symbols.
Would you like to know more?
Good manual you should keep handy. Chapter 2 talks about all of the military unit and organizational symbols. All right, a little bonus information for you. There are also a whole set of modifiers. So in this video, I just talked through the basic things you need to have, but we can add in these little modifiers that go on top of and below the main icon that add additional details or information about what kind of unit there are. All right, have a great day.